He heard her name and hit the floor. 1 second of silence, then laughter boiling over 20,000 people. But behind that cheeky roll-on-his-back moment in Nashville, there's a story that didn't start on stage. And it won't end there. There's Keith Urban, there's Nicole, and then there's the name Nicole appearing in the crowd at exactly the right or wrong time. Tonight, we're pulling the thread. Because what looked like a harmless joke could be the clearest window into how a 19-year love story quietly unraveled, and how a country star is learning to breathe again, one punchline at a time. But that was only the beginning. The Nashville name drop one name, one reaction, 1,000 headlines. During his High and Alive tour stop in Nashville, Keith leans off the edge of the stage, drops his mic to a fan, and asks the simplest question, "What's your name?" Her answer ricochets off the rafters. Nicole. His eyes widen. His body goes limp. And then Keith, ever the showman, dramatically rolls onto his back as the arena howls. He pops up with a grin that's half mischief, half deflection. "Did you say Nicole Richie?" The crowd eats it up. Cameras swing. Social feeds go molten. People rewind to watch his face, frame by frame, like a Zapruder film of feelings. But why did it land so hard? Because the joke isn't just a joke. It's a pressure valve, a tiny release in a season that's been anything but light. And it tells us something subtle. He's not dodging the moment. He's dancing with it, even if it stings. And what happened next shocked everyone. The 24-hour whiplash. Less than a day earlier, Keith wasn't cracking jokes. He wasn't even singing. He was silent. Doctor's orders. Laryngitis. Complete vocal rest. Greenville, South Carolina. Got a last-minute cancellation and a promise he'd be back when his voice was. That's not scandal. That's human. But here's the twist. By the time he reached Nashville, he looked like a man determined to deliver no matter what. He didn't just sing. He connected. He riffed with fans. He wove humor through the heartbreak humming under the set list. It felt like a reset. Like he'd decided the story wouldn't be written around him. He would write inside it. But that was only the beginning. The paper trail. You can't laugh off, you can giggle at a name. You can't giggle at documents. The quiet part got loud the day the paperwork surfaced. A marital dissolution agreement here. A parenting plan there? Dates stamped. Signatures inked. Irreconcilable differences can sound like legal wallpaper, but it's really just the state's shorthand for something bigger. We reached the end of the road we could walk together. No alimony. No spousal support. Shared custody language that reads like two grown-ups trying to protect their daughters from the noise. A framework that says, we will not talk badly about each other. We will keep the girls first. We will move forward with dignity. It's not dramatic. It's not messy. It's responsible. And somehow that makes the public silence feel louder. Because when paperwork is clean, hearts usually aren't. And then the timeline started to glow like a neon sign. The last summer of almost scroll back to the start of summer. Glimpses that look normal. Smiles at a stadium. Holding hands at a match. A carousel of family photos without the one photo everyone goes searching for. Then the anniversary post, 19 years. Nicole writes, "Happy anniversary, baby." Keith taps a heart. It's sweet. It's sparse. And if you know how to read celebrity Instagram, sparse speaks volumes. This is the tricky part about watching any public couple. The same platform that once felt like a window slowly becomes a mirror. You're not seeing them. You're seeing your reflection of them. And in that reflection, we start telling stories. Maybe they're fine. Maybe they're trying. Maybe they're done. The truth is rarely in caps lock. It's in the choices, the silence, the sequence of events we only piece together in hindsight. But there were more breadcrumbs. The interview that didn't want to be an interview. On a July radio call, a host tries to be cheeky. He asks Keith how it feels seeing Nicole in romantic scenes with younger co-stars. A harmless quip? Maybe. A bad time for it? Definitely. The line goes dead. Was it a dropped connection? A team pulling the plug? A star choosing his boundary? Depends on which angle you prefer. But the signal underneath the static is clear. He didn't want this to be the conversation. At least not like that. Not then. For some, that moment became, aha, proof of trouble. For others, it was just a man declining to publicly dissect his marriage. But either way, it was a beat in the rhythm of a summer that didn't sound like the summers before it. and then came the whisper of a new address. The Portugal Pivot residency applications don't trend on TikTok. But look closer. They're the kind of life paperwork that tells you someone is drawing a new map. Nicole applies for residency in Portugal. Keith will follow later, sources say, when touring lines up with bureaucratic timing. No one's abandoning Nashville. It's more like adding a door to a new hallway. The kind of move you make when you're either building a second chapter together or preparing to write separate ones with overlapping scenes for the kids. Sometimes love looks like staying. Sometimes it looks like giving each other space to become who you need to be next. And if you want to understand their compass, ask the people they raised. The house rules. Their eldest, Sunday Rose, speaks with the clarity of someone who grew up around microphones and cameras but knows she doesn't need to chase them. 2 rules stand out. No fashion work before 16. School comes first. Translation, structure, priorities, guardrails. One of the quiet tragedies of any public split is how fast the tabloid storm tries to blow those guardrails down. Yet the parenting plan reads like reinforcement. We won't badmouth each other. We'll keep the kids centered. A promise written for 2 girls who didn't ask for clicks. Just consistency. But the adult story kept spinning, and the quotes began to sound like underlined answers. Nicole's season of answers without questions. In back-to-back features, Nicole talks about life turning left when you expected straight, about age as accumulation, of wisdom, of tools, of weathered faith. There's a way through, she says. Not around, through. If you've ever loved long enough to watch something beautiful change shape, you know that line in your bones. She's not weaponizing words. She's metabolizing them, accepting the ache, holding the ring one night and the pen the next. There's no hypocrisy in that, just the human tempo of goodbye. And then there was the show, the one place where someone like Keith can hold pain up to the lights and decide if it will crush him or crown him. The stagecraft of healing country music isn't just chords, it's confession. It's standing on 2 square feet of plywood and telling the truth 3 minutes at a time. On this tour, he didn't make a speech about the divorce. He didn't need to. The set list is a language. You can say more with an arrangement than you ever could with a press release. At one point, he helps a fan announce her pregnancy. He turns a onesie into a memory that family will talk about forever. It's beautiful theater because it's not theater at all. It's connection. And that's what people buy a ticket for. Not perfection, presence, which brings us back to the name. Nicole. A flinch. A fall. A punchline. What did it mean? Maybe everything. Maybe nothing. But ask yourself, what kind of man hears the name of his estranged wife in a crowd and chooses to meet it with humor instead of hostility? A man who knows a camera is on him? Sure. But also a man who understands show business and soul business aren't enemies. Sometimes the joke is an umbrella. It keeps the storm off your face just long enough to finish the song. But every good story has a middle nobody sees. The private beginning of the end. If you zoom way out, the start of summer picks up a new color. Sources say they separated privately first. Not a shocking blowout. Not a midnight dramatic run to the courthouse. Just a choice made in the soft light between school runs and sound checks. People imagine endings as explosions. More often, they're erosion. A cliff doesn't crash in a day. It crumbles in quiet. And if you've been married long enough, you know the paradox. Love can still be present even as the marriage leaves. That's what makes this one sting for fans. It always looked like the fairy tale that found a way to be normal. But normal was doing what normal always does, changing. The 2 careers that never slept, consider the load. Award seasons overlapping with album cycles, location shoots colliding with legs of a tour, 2 daughters growing up, 2 calendars fighting for the same Thursdays. Most couples bend in that hurricane. The rare ones don't break. Keith and Nicole did an extraordinary job of making extraordinary look ordinary. They moved like teammates, airport kisses, post-show selfies, date night hand squeezes that said, "Still us." And for 19 years it was. But time has a way of asking new questions you can't answer with old vows. You can stand in the same house and wake up in different futures. It's not betrayal. It's becoming, which is why the paperwork reads so peacefully. The dignity clause, no cash battles, no power plays, no gotchas, just boundaries, shared commitments. A map for holidays and weekends that looks like a careful compromise between 2 lives that will overlap for as long as they're parents. which is to say, forever. It's not the kind of divorce that feeds the beast. It's the kind that starves it. And maybe that's the quiet legacy of their marriage. Even the ending is an act of protection. But, you ask, what about the ring? That ring, the ring that stayed until it didn't. A few days before everything went public, Nicole steps out wearing her engagement ring. The internet gasps, then argues with itself. Some call it denial. Some call it respect. Here's a third option, ritual. Our hearts adopt rituals to walk us across the impossible. Sometimes you take the ring off to remember who you are. Sometimes you keep it on to honor who you were. There's no wrong way to cross that bridge if you're crossing it with care. And while the world measured carrots, Keith measured cords. He still had a show to play, so he played How Humor Becomes Armor. Comedians call it owning the room. Singers call it holding the room. On that Nashville night, Keith did both. When the fan said Nicole, he could have pretended he didn't hear. He could have forced a smile and sprinted to the next song. Instead, he gave the moment a bit. A wink, a release. Humor doesn't erase pain. It gives it shape. It says, I see you. You don't get to run me. Watch me spin you into a laugh. For anyone who's walked through a breakup, that's not a stunt. That's a survival skill. But a single joke doesn't close a 19-year chapter. It just turns the page. The love that doesn't vanish. Here's a truth most headlines can't hold. Marriages can end while love remains. Different love. Quieter love. The kind that lives in safety plans and FaceTime schedules and front row seats at school plays even when you'd rather be anywhere else but the same row. It's not cinematic. It's mature. And it's the love that gets written into custody clauses with verbs like encourage and support and respect. Call it boring if you want. Every kid who grows up inside that piece will call it a blessing. And the music? It keeps going. Because it has to. What the songs know, every artist smuggles life into lyrics. Keith's catalog is a long conversation about longing, choosing, messing up, coming back, staying anyway. If you listen closely on this tour, the solos feel a hair longer. The choruses land a notch harder. Maybe that's projection. Maybe the melodies actually are holding more weight now. Either way, fans are hearing themselves in the echo. That's the magic of country. One story turns into everybody's. But in this story, there's still a question we can't stop asking. What did the joke mean? Was it shade? Relief? A wink at a history only two people truly understand? Here's a radical answer. Maybe it was kindness. To himself, to her, to the crowd. He didn't drag Nicole. He didn't take a cheap shot. He pulled the name into a safer lane and kept the night joyful. You can tell a lot about someone by how they handle a spotlight you didn't plan for. On that floor, looking up at a sea of faces, he chose laughter. And yet, the part you didn't see might be the truest part of all. After the lights, after the last cheer, there's a quiet place backstage where the noise falls off a cliff. You towel off. You sip water. You check your phone. Maybe there's a photo from one of the girls. Maybe there's a text from a friend who said, saw the clip. Nice save. Maybe there's nothing. The best artists carry the crowd home and then let them go. They know how to be alone with the echo. That's where healing sneaks in. Not on camera, in the corridor. And if you're looking for signs the healing's begun, look at the way both of them have spoken, or chosen not to. No blame, no shots fired. Just life, work, kids, rhythm. Which brings us to the only part of this story that belongs to the rest of us. What we make of it fans will always map their own memories onto celebrity love stories. That's half the reason we watch. We want proof that long love survives fame. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. But the end never cancels the good that came before it. 19 years of marriage aren't undone by a filing. 2 daughters aren't unparented by a headline. And a joke about Nicole Richie can live in the same universe as 2 people choosing to be gentle with each other, on paper, in public, and hopefully in private. So, when the fan said Nicole, he fell, he laughed, he lived. He kept the show moving. He didn't hide. He didn't weaponize. He did the one thing music people have always done when life grabs the mic. He turned it into a moment we could all survive together. And if you've ever loved and lost and learned to breathe again, you know exactly how that feels. Is the joke the whole story? No. Is it a clue? Absolutely. Maybe it's proof that some endings aren't battles. They're bridges. You don't burn them. You cross. So here's the real question. Was that punchline a coping mechanism, a message to fans, or just Keith being Keith? After 19 years, does one laugh tell us anything or everything? You tell me.